Hey, welcome to Explore HVAC and Home Services podcast, where we uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets behind successful businesses. I'm your host, Pam Mashburn, and today we're joined with a special guest from Blue Collar Media Group, Patrick Carr. He is the owner and founder of Blue Collar Media Group, and he's making a real impact in the HVAC and home services industry. So we're excited about getting to see him. Patrick, welcome.
And thanks so much. I appreciate you having me. You do a great job with this for HVAC contractors, bringing in some really
Thanks.
good people. And I know we got a chance to meet through a great guy and with Mike and everything. And the work that you do for him is incredible. So it's a real honor to be able to talk to you. And thank you very much for having me.
Oh, thanks, Patrick. You're my favorite podcast guest ever now.
There you
So
go.
yeah, good. I love starting out that way. But hey, yeah, that's how we met was through Mike Pettit,
Yeah.
because you guys met and started doing some video work for him. But tell me, like, what is Blue Collar Media Group? How did you get in this business? It's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah. So 5 years ago, April 2021, I started Blue Collar Media Group. And I was telling Anthony on my team over here just yesterday, I was just stupid enough to start this business. And what I mean by that is I had never owned a camera in my life. I had never edited a video, shot a video. I couldn't tell you what an exposure or a lens or anything was, an SD card, not a clue. I had worked for a company where I'd had a videographer. And when I saw that company wasn't doing things the right way, they were funding insurance claims, I quit. And I had nothing else to do. But when I went to every single one of those contractors and I said, hey, this is what's going on. I'm not going to be the fall guy. And two of them said, hey, why don't you do some content for us like you did for them? And I thought to myself, sure, no problem at all. They had no idea that I had a videographer. So I went to YouTube University. I learned how to edit some content on my phone. And for the first 6 months of this company, it was just working with contractors with editing on my phone, and trying to create something special for them with an iPhone, whatever it was at that time, 11 or 12, because I didn't even have enough money to buy a camera. Um, Today, we have 16 employees. It's all in-house, and we have quite a few of these cameras that sit around, but it started with a cell phone.
Wow, that's pretty cool. You got a lot of hustle. So, you know, this is an industry that like, if I look at you, I don't see you as like you're a very manly guy, and I don't see you as like that typical creative, video kind of person, artsy person. So, tell me, like, what makes blue collar media tick for you? How do you find the people in your, that you hire? Do you try to find those artsy types, or tell me about that?
Yeah. So one of the things well, hiring talent is not exactly easy, as you know, in any industry. I'm very fortunate to be in Orlando where we've got UCF and we've got Full Sail University and all these different places where people want to study film. So we've got no shortage of people who want to be a part of our team. The issue is, I'm sure you can imagine, is getting people interested in filming for contractors, for HVAC or roofing or restoration, any blue collar work. It's not exactly like, you're shooting music videos and
Right? It's
star
not real
athletes.
sexy stuff,
It ain't sex.
Yeah.
And trying to get, the average age on my team is 24, and then there's me. And so trying to get people involved into like, hey, this is good work. There's good things to be had here. And the way that I try to position that with everybody on my team is that to look at it this way, there is someone who is putting in an immense amount of work with their hands to build something special for their family. If they're going to give us their hard earned money, they deserve something that's going to make them feel special. I want to give them something they can take to their family and go, look, this is what I built. Look at this. Like, this captures in 3.5 minutes the last 10 years of the BS I've had to deal with and 60, 70-hour weeks. And I feel like I finally look like the contractor I promised myself I would be. And when I tell people that in an interview, if you can't get behind that, we're not going to be the right company for you.
Wow, that's really good. I think everyone wants to be in a company that has a mission, and that is a great mission to do. I was watching all the videos that you created just recently for Mike Pettit at Pettit Heating and Cooling in Tennessee, and we're redoing their website. And so I was looking at videos and I was like, where can we put this? Because you did a bunch of educational videos, but the video that you did about the history, and they've only been in business like 4 or 5 years, but kind of the history, the vision of the company, like, I got a little misty-eyed because their leadership team is so committed to the mission of keeping their clients from being in a cold house with a baby, and, I mean, they are really on a mission, and they hire good people, like, they're good people, and you guys totally took the essence of their business, they're strong Christians, and you guys just exuded that, and it was and they had another video done of that same sort of story a couple of years ago, and it was pretty good, but this was amazingly good, and, it really captured it. So,
Appreciate
and
that.
that's the other thing is I think anybody could say, "Oh, I got a phone right here, and I could take a video," but you guys have people that can turn a story like script writers and things like that. What's that secret sauce that you guys have to be able to do that?
So I've got some really good people that have been with me for a while. And I think that the secondary thing behind experience, because you do enough of these, we've screwed up enough times to where now we have a really good thing we know how to put together.
Yeah.
But then I think that what I tell them with those kinds of videos is to approach them from the perspective of if you watch it at the end and you feel nothing, then you did something wrong. You
Mm,
should feel some kind of emotion when you watch something today. I mean, if it's a company story, I should feel connected in some way to that business. If it's through the Christian faith, if it's through I can see myself in that owner, if it's simply through this looks like a company that I want to work with and be friends with and have a beer with. You should feel something. It shouldn't just feel like ugh, more noise in the background. And so we approach it from that perspective. We want people to actually feel attached in some way to the content that we're creating. Um, I'll tell you, but you understand this more than anybody. There's when we do these pre-productions with people, Mike was different, and because he truly wanted to get across a mission. But too many contractors we talk to, and they'll say the same regurgitated lines. Well, we're a company with integrity. We work hard. We do what we say. Blah blah. It's like we've got to try to find something within the minutia that says, okay, that's different about you, and then try to just expound upon that when we're out there, and then hopefully show people they really are a different company for that reason. And that takes a lot. That takes time,
right.
and most videographers are not willing to put that in because they don't understand the business or they just simply don't give a crap enough to be able to want to do that.
Well, and I think a lot of videographers charge by the hour, and I think that's why they don't take the time to get to know the business. Because if you're charging by the hour, then that owner is saying, "Oh, crap, 10 hours is gonna cost me X amount of dollars, so let's get on with this," you know? And so they don't take that time to get to know them. And I love the fact that you guys have flat fee pricing so that that isn't that isn't an issue. Um,
I'm so happy. It's crazy you brought that up because yesterday
yeah,
someone asked me a question. We were at a meeting and they asked me about like how many conferences my team goes to, like for the industry that I'm in, media, and zero. And I don't go to any conferences for media, and nor do I pay it. I don't even know, be very frank, how most media companies charge. I've never paid attention to it because I've always looked at it from the contractor's perspective. What would make sense to them? And when I go to these, I've been to them before, the conferences, and people start getting all caught up in the language of media and video production. Meanwhile, the guy just wants to know, what am I getting for this money?
right.
Give me my deliverables. They live in that world. And so, like, for instance, everyone will tell me, coaches and stuff that I've hired, Patrick, you know what? You should charge for travel. What are you charging for that? I tell them it's built in. Well, what if you have to reschedule? Well, then we eat it. Well, because what I found is that it's a terrible relationship when we have to charge you $150. Why? Because there was a weather delay. That's
Right,
part of the business that we have here.
right,
So we build everything in to make it real simple for a contractor to go, all right, I'm going to pay this. I'm going to get this. No auxiliary fees. That seems simple enough to me.
right.
But it's funny you mentioned that because I I really don't know what my competition charges. I know what I think is a fair rate for the product that we deliver.
Well, I think that you guys have very fair rates, but
Thank you.
just that upfront pricing, and it's interesting because you have that same upfront pricing philosophy that most of our contractors have, and they're not trying to nickel and dime their customers because they understand. People have X amount of dollars, and they don't want to come back and find out it was $2,000 more or whatever. So I think you're really smart. I wanted to go back to one of the things that you were talking about, finding that point of difference. I think we're working with a lot of our clients right now to really lean into how they're different than private equity because that's what's coming into town. And I think the consumer is starting to understand private equity because it's going into so many different industries. But we've been talking a lot about how, I mean, we've always said an HVAC company should be community focused, but private equity companies are not community focused, they're profit focused. And so all those dollars end up leaving the community. And so we've been trying to lean into that a little bit more. Um, and I think finding those points of difference, not saying, I mean, everybody says integrity and everybody says all of those things. And actually, when you were talking about that, it's making me rethink some things on our website for Mike because he has the word integrity on there and it doesn't really mean anything if everybody has it, right? So I think I need to lean into more of some of his vision statements and put that on the website. So I'm actually writing that down right now.
So here's how I approach it with our clients. Like, because everybody wants, okay, I want a better brand or I want a more recognizable brand. I hear this word a lot.
Hmm.
And what I tell people is this, I tell them, well, what's your brand? Tell me. And they'll always kind of, okay, we stand for this. And I rephrase it a little bit. And here's how I approach it. I say the brand that you have is the instantaneous emotion that a person feels when they see your name or your logo. And if you don't feel anything, you have no brand. So I look at that in my clients and I say, do you feel like most people in this area look at your brand and feel anything? No, probably not. Not unless you've got a great brand as an HVAC contractor that's been around a while in your area. And
Hmm.
so I look at that and go, okay, now we got a chance to develop that brand. What emotion do you want them to feel? And when I look at that, I go, okay, you want them to feel this way. I don't know. Maybe feel like they just walked into a darn Cracker Barrel and it feels like home. All right. If
Right.
that's how you want them to feel, then we need to create content that's in line with that emotion. And so we start. Mike was a unique scenario because he had a clear vision. You could feel it. But with most people, we start with a North Star message of like, what is that emotion we want someone to register when they hear this brand? And we want it to be instantaneous. And if we can do that with our content, then we can accomplish something for them. If all
So
we
you
do is just create more stuff, then I feel like we just create more noise and I haven't done my job. And then as well, someone like you, I have to be able to work with you to be able to give you content to be able to keep the food on the table for them. Your responsibility is so great because while I'm creating the content, your business is using that content to actually work for that business. And then if I don't give you what you need, then I think I probably failed that business too.
Well, I
I don't
think
want
it's
to
been
do
a
that.
great synergy. Like, I love that. One of the things that we do, Patrick and I, is we meet with the owner together. So while I'm putting together the marketing plan, he's putting together the marketing content. And video is so stinking important now in the AI world. And just, I mean, people, I remember when they first started coming out with YouTubes and videos, and I was like, just give me a transcript. Like, I don't have time to watch this video. I used to be that person. And now, we've gotten so good at putting together an idea in a very quick video. And I'll give TikTok some credit for doing that. Now the reels, I can get a message across, or you with the video can get a message across in 6 to 15 seconds. So that is, and AI can read the video. It gives Google likes to give people recommendations because they've got video on their website. So it's becoming like super mainstream and the preferred method for people to learn and just consuming it. They're just constantly consuming it, whether it's funny videos or educational videos or whatever it is.
Absolutely. One of the questions we're starting to get a lot more, and I'm sure you get this as well, is can I use AI? Can I just use AI content? Like, can we just AI the whole thing? And I think that's coming from this. I call the Instagram culture, where someone is swiping through Instagram, they see a video and it says for 45 bucks a month, you can join this and look within 10 seconds, you can have videos just like this. It doesn't work that way. Now, are we moving in that direction? We are. But the real way that AI content is working now, at least what we can see, and we're doing quite a bit of it, is the best customers we have are those where we have the best reference images. So if somebody wanted to say, like, how do I get started with great AI content? You need to have great references in order to teach the AI what you are about. And then a good company like ours and the people we have build off of those reference images and short reference clips to be able to build into a larger video for you. We're not quite yet there where we can just type in some words and get what we want out of the AI. You need that reference image and reference video to really make it effective.
Do you have some contractors that are hesitant about like reading the script and giving you images and having you create AI video?
They are. I think I've said this before. Contractors need to give it the devil its due. The reason that most HVAC contractors don't create content has nothing to do with them not knowing what to say, not knowing who to target, or whatever else crap. It's that they're scared of the judgment of other HVAC contractors down the street. They're
Really?
scared of the judgment of the negative comment that someone's going to say from Beach Lover 92638 with a private profile who they've never met before, who's going to tell them they look stupid while they're saying something in front of a truck. And most contractors have too much pride in order to say that. So they don't want to be like, well, I'm scared of a negative comment, but you are.
Right.
And our job a lot of times is to get past the bravado and to go, let's give the devil its due. It's tough. And you won't do it by yourself because you are going to be nervous and you're not going to know what to say, but it's because you don't want to look like a fool. And I get that. So let's move past the bravado. We're scared, we're nervous, and then we're going to push through it. And on the other side of that is something that your competitors are unwilling to do. That's that's the basic pitch.
It is the basic pitch. I know. I saw a really young HVAC company. In fact, they don't have a website and they don't have a Google business profile. But they are getting a lot of engagement on their goofy videos on Facebook and Instagram. And I'm not sure. I think it's mostly their friends that are engaging with it. And I don't know that it's driving business, but it sure is driving engagement. Um, how how do how do you handle the client that wants to do like goofy videos? Like, do you do the goofy videos and then talk them into doing some professional videos too? Because I will say this, I saw the goofy videos and I thought, oh, those are entertaining or whatever. But I thought, do I really want these guys working on the most expensive appliance in my house? Like I think a goofy video every now and then is okay, but I don't know that that's all you. That should be your whole platform. But what do you think?
I think it matters. Okay, so if I got a contractor that I feel is going to be committed over time to actually building a brand, this is not just I want to get some videos, quick hitters, like I'm going to do this one time. If that's what you're going for, great. You can probably suffer through it and make some funny videos because in likelihood you're not funny, but we're going to have to push it through.
Well, and
Um,
they're not making videos that have to do with HVAC. They're just making goofy, like clowning around kind of videos.
and I so
Yeah.
there are rarely people I'd say that can pull that kind of stuff off. Most people are awkward or it just doesn't come across with the delivery. But what we try to teach our clients is that if you are fake on camera, you'll hate being on camera more and
Mm,
more and more
that's great advice.
because you're going to sit there and you're going to go every time you're going to know what we call the used car salesman is going to have to come on where you're going to go, and now thanks for coming out today. I want you can't wait to come down to Patrick's HVAC because we're going to, it's like, whoa, 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 buddy. If you got to do that every time, I'd be lost and out of breath too. And so if you're funny, be funny. If you're serious, be serious. Be who you are. 50% of the people aren't going to like you anyway. They might as well not like you for who you are. And so you'll identify with the other 50% who are looking for that kind of individual. Um, And I think that if they can do that, they'll probably enjoy making the content a lot more.
A lot more, yeah. Well, and I think that the big thing is, we say this on social media that an ad shouldn't look like an ad.
Yeah, it's a
It
great point.
does better if an ad doesn't look like an ad.
Yeah.
And, that's sometimes hard to convince our clients, but, um, how do you let's just talk about recruitment because that is a big challenge for our HVAC and home services folks. Um, what are some tips that you have for, portraying the culture of a business or what are some tips that you have for recruitment videos?
So recruitment videos, I've just got off a call earlier this morning with a contractor here in Florida. We're doing some for 'em. And what we're going to do is we're going to be interviewing their employees and then going day in the life of with their employees in the field. I want to say something about that because here's a mistake that I see a lot of. They'll try to dress up their company. Like, let's get the best looking person, the best looking gal, the best looking tech, and put them in a polo and put them in front. And then they try to run that as a recruitment. And they're trying to reach the guy who's been fixing HVAC for 20 years, who's sitting there in a truck and he's fed up with the BS he's been dealing with. And you've got to look at that and you've got to say, is that guy going to identify with the young kid that you think is a good talker that you put onto camera? Or is he going to identify with somebody else who he can feel an emotional attachment to, who he goes, yeah, that guy's speaking to me. I know what it's like to be at a company that doesn't appreciate me for 20 years. And he's telling me he moved over here to pet it and they appreciate him. I want to put an application in with this team. I think that the mistake they make is that they try to be too polished and you need to show what you are, man. If you got rough hands, show you got rough hands and try to get more people like that. Um, and just talk to them and say, why the heck did you choose this place? Because you sure didn't have to. You've been working at this for 20 years. You can go a lot of different places.
Mhm.
Let them tell you.
Oh, I love that. That's great advice. I mean,
Thanks.
that is great advice. Um, yeah, we need to get one of those for Pettit because I'm doing his career page too. So
Yeah,
mark that down.
absolutely. Um, I, yeah, I think people, I really believe that companies would do better to just show who they really are. Um, because there are so many great companies out there and they really don't they're so scared of looking foolish or what someone's going to say that they don't create any content. And in the meantime, they're losing business. And I tell this to HVAC contractors. Like people go, "What's the ROI on a piece of content?" Like I go out there and I make a video. What's the ROI on it? And sometimes you don't realize the ROI because of the bounce rate that people have. I see people running ads, Pam, and what's happening is they're putting money behind ads, and they haven't made a post on Instagram or Facebook since November 2025. And then they want to know why when someone sees an ad and they go over to their page, they go, I don't know if I want to do business with them because they're researching them and they go, this doesn't jive
They're
with
not a
what I
real
saw in the
business.
ad.
Yeah, right.
And so you have a higher bounce rate because nobody trusts you because you haven't developed any content that backs up what your ad is saying. And so they blame the ad when in reality, if you had a brand, you could close more of those people and build trust with them. But you're so busy investing in just ad, you're not willing to show people who you really are. And
I
that's
know.
really what they want to see.
Yeah, we struggle with this all the time. So,
Really?
just that customer journey, that funnel to get someone to call you, they have to see you. I mean, they say 17 times. I think it's more than that because they have to see you when they don't need you. And I call that being known before needed. People have got to think of you when they have the emergency or when they go, it's time for us to get this checked. Who do we use? And I can't tell you how many times people say, I don't know who I use. And they have to go out and look at the sticker on the HVAC, unit. So that means you're not staying top of mind and your branding's not that great if they can't remember you. But let's face it, nobody's nobody's thinking about HVAC companies all the time. So that's why having the videos, having the content, creating the education for people to know stuff, but they do need to get to know who you are. And what you're just saying about just going straight to Google ads. I have a lot of younger companies, not younger necessarily, but smaller companies that have not invested the time in reviews and in branding. And they're like, just Just put some Google ads out there. Well, I can run Google ads all day long, but there's a lot of choices out there. And if they don't know who you are, they see this big long list of people and they go, okay, I know this one. And that's who they pick. So a lot of times it's just I mean, I hate to say brand awareness, but they've got to have seen you a bunch of times and like you. Like you said, they have to like you and trust you. You've got to have
I
that
wonder what your
authority
thought
in the
is.
market. And part of that is just being seen. And part of that is content, 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 because people are spending 4 to 5 hours on their phones every day. I mean, now I think people are on their phone. Like I noticed I was on my phone while I was watching TV. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm scrolling through and seeing all. I mean, you're just consuming so much content now. Um, and
Pam,
I
I'm
don't know
interested
that
to
you
hear what
can
you
necessarily do the ROI on that one piece. Like we're trying to micro track stuff. And what does everybody say when they call? Oh, how did you hear about us? Oh, I looked you up on Google. But they didn't say, oh, I've seen you on Facebook 16 times. But when I
that's
had to pick you, it's because I'd seen you so much. They don't remember all that, right?
Google's where they ended their journey. It's probably not where they began it, or it wasn't the middle of the funnel.
Exactly.
Um, I'm interested to hear your opinion on this because we hear contractors say, "Oh, prices are, of course, it costs more to get a lead today than it did 2 years ago." I get that.
Mhm.
And then what I'm always find interesting is I ask the question like, "Okay, what do you plan to do about it? Are we just going to keep on sucking on the teat of Google like the whole time?" Or do you want to actually build a brand that maybe could drive down your CAC and maybe we could start to do something about it to fight back against the rising cost? I mean, eventually you have to go, I have to do something different than
Right.
just paying for more. Um, and that's what we advise. And I'd like to think that it works over time, but it's not
It does.
something where, like, especially with social media, I'd love to hear your opinion. Some people come to us and they go, nothing. They've never done anything. And they just want to run an ad and turn on the faucet and have people just want to do business with them on seeing their ad one time on Instagram. And that doesn't work that way. A brand is built over time and overseeing you time and time again. They trust you, and those higher intent customers drive down your cost of acquisition. Um, that's what we see. We struggle with that a lot because everybody wants the results, but they don't want to put in the work.
The consistent work. I mean, a lot of
The
times the
consistent work.
reason people hire us to do their social media is not because they can't do it. Social media is free, right? The work is not free. That's the problem. And a busy business owner shouldn't be out there having to figure out social media and posting. So that's the one thing that an agency brings you is that consistent presence. It has got to be consistent. And like you said, if you see an ad or you hear their name and you happen to look them up on Facebook or you happen to look them up on, we've actually even started some TikTok channels for clients,
Love that.
not because they're going to be advertising on TikTok, but because they need to be wherever their clients are. That's the name of the game. And there are so many different places that they can be. They have to, and a business owner can't do it. I mean, one thing that keeps my job secure is that it's getting more complicated, not easier. And now that AI has entered into the thing, I mean, I have 23 people on staff right now. And I don't even claim to know everything. If I hear about something with AI or I have a question, I go to the person on my staff who their job is to stay up on just that one segment of things. Like if it's Google Business Profile, why did they take the Q&A off? What are they doing instead? Like I want to know these things so I can intelligently talk about it, but I can't, there's no way one person can know it all. There's no way.
No, not at all. Uh,
Which also leads me to a question to ask you because you have a team of people, and then I've seen a lot of clients that go, "Oh, I'm just going to hire a social media person. Like I'm just going to hire a video person in house."
yeah.
Tell me, and then you're like, "Oh, I feel so sorry for that young grad that just graduated." Talk about that a little bit. I think it's funny.
Yeah, they're screwed. I mean, the 22-year-old kid is screwed. And so is the company. And I'm not going to say it doesn't happen every now and then where there's, some diamond in the rough that you're able to find. But we see this a lot where somebody will crunch numbers and go, okay, if I'd worked with you all year long, Pat, and I got all this great content, you came out here all these times, let's say it was $60,000. I can go hire somebody internally and I can pay them that, and I'll have a videographer in house full time to do all this for me. That makes more sense.
Hmm.
To which I would reply and go, got it. Who's going to hire that guy? Who's going to train him? Who's going to let him know what to film and what not to film? Who's going to make sure that they're doing their job? Who there on your team understands that it should take an hour to do that edit or an entire day to be able to do that edit? And when they say things like they're color grading or some term you don't know, then what does that mean to you? Is that a button or is that like an hour-long process that they have to do? And in the meantime, without deliverables, the person who comes on is going to suffer. And then the business owner will never listen to that videographer who's 22 years old because he has no credit. And so there's not going to be a relationship where there's really they're off to the right tone. And so it becomes almost immediately a no-win situation. Um, because every business owner will continue to push it off with somebody that works for them that they
Yeah.
haven't paid for. I've said
Oh,
so many
guilty,
times.
guilty. You can
Yeah,
ask Olivia in the other room. I'm like,
yeah,
oh, I'm working on something really urgent, and because she works for, she's like, okay.
yeah.
I've had
But
to give her permission to force me to do stuff. So
that's perfect. And so I say half of our job is accountability.
right.
Just because now you've paid us, you're going to do it. And then
Hmm.
it's like, oh, I got to look at these scripts and oh my gosh, I have to do a pre-production. It's like when you go through it, every time think to myself, these people never would have done it without us. And it'll be next year that they would have been saying, we know we need to do something. Um, and so yeah, sure. Go out there and hire the local guy, make sure he's got the right equipment, make sure that that person understands how to do the work and what to show and what not to show. Good luck. It's going to be an uphill battle.
Well, I
Um,
think too, I think it takes time. I mean,
oh,
we have a young videographer on our staff that helps with our local clients, 'cause we have a generalist agency as well. But we really look towards you for the HVAC stuff. But it took him a little while to even understand what our brand was, what our standard of excellence is. And then even just like, thank goodness he had gone to film school or whatever it was, but he kind of knew like equipment, but that was a big expense. Like I ended up adding it on the budget, like video equipment. And I'm like, holy cow, we really need all this. And
oh
so
my gosh.
it gets expensive. Well, and then, it's just like a computer, it goes out of date or it breaks or something happens and you gotta buy another one. So those are just other costs that you're not thinking about as a business owner. And then and even your own personal brand, and Olivia's listening, so I'm gonna be gentle because she is a diamond in the rough. But
Yeah.
we've had to spend some time explaining because we have our Explore Media agency, we have our Explore HVAC agency, and they're different clients, they're different customers, they're different services kind of that we offer. And she's had to learn the branding for that and the voice. And that's not something that somebody just comes in and learns, when you've had a business for 20 years. So
Absolutely.
but you guys, but I will give you credit with PETA, you guys nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. And I mean, you did a fantastic job. And all your stuff. I mean, I looked at your portfolio when we first got introduced and I was just amazed at the pieces that you're putting out and the different kinds of pieces. The short educational reels, the long educational reels, the podcast kind of look that you did to really have him talk about stuff. Y'all did photography, like professional photography, which made it so great for us for the website design. Holy cow. There's some there's
Well,
some bad photography out there in this world. And a lot of people, instead of getting good photography, what do? They go to stock, right?
oh,
They go to stock. And a lot of the stock that's out there seems to be like European guys. I'm like, that doesn't even look like America. So you have to and then sometimes they'll have AI create it and there's some guy and he's like looking off into the distance. He's got sunglasses. It looks like he's a blind man. And there's and I'm like, is anybody even looking at this photography? Like, I don't, and I know that we're eventually well, Google is already putting watermarks on stuff that's AI generated. And because Google has Gemini, I think they're like being very, they're looking over the fact that there's a lot of AI generated content. But I think that's going to start changing later. I think it's going to be, I think there's going to be some changes that we're going to see where you've got to do certain things to make sure that you are ranking. and that you're being picked by AI and that you're being picked by SEO. I think there's going to be some changes on
I
that.
think for us in the media side, what we see coming down the pipeline is the use of blockchain within video. So your likeness having a blockchain to it. Um, a lot
Wait,
of
what does
people
that
out
mean? Tell me what that means. What does that
so
mean?
so what'll happen, and some of the actors like Matthew McConaughey are on the forefront of doing this right now. Um, and they really are, and it's a beautiful thing that they're attempting to do. And I think it's really going to save, in a way, it could save live video. But let's fast forward a year or so, maybe 2 years. I will have my likeness that will be attached to a blockchain, meaning that if somebody uses my likeness, AI will go out there and find it. And that person will be able to pay for using my likeness if they want. Now, me, they won't. But let's say you wanted Joe Rogan inside of your ad, which you could do, but that blockchain will allow them to find Joe Rogan being used out there, detect that, and then say, no, 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 take that down, or you have to pay licensing rights in order to use that image of Joe Rogan and his likeness. And I think we're going to find it to where it's going to start to police itself through the blockchain. And I think that could be a really positive thing for live video, for the talent that people bring. And it could be great for AI video too. People could pay to use their influencer on their page if they want. They're just going to be paying for their likeness, which will be unrecognizable from the real thing.
Wow, that's really interesting. Because I know right now, in our industry, a lot of people, we have to be really careful when we take on people's websites because may have used an unauthorized photo. You know,
Absolutely.
it wasn't a royalty free stock photo, or, they pulled it off of the web. And I actually had a client that happened to, not in the HVAC industry. Um, and we had to go back and find out how many times had it been looked at, how many times had it been accessed, because they were in a lawsuit about it. So that's really interesting that you're mentioning that. I'm going to have to really stay abreast of that so that we don't get into any legal problems later on. So, not
Oh
that
yeah.
anybody's using Joe Rogan, but you could use who knows who, you know?
Well,
So,
like 11 Labs, we use 11 Labs for voice cloning all the time.
yeah.
We'll have a contractor maybe read out a couple paragraphs that we give to them, and then we're able to clone their voice exactly and add it into a script. Well, if I wanted Morgan Freeman's voice and I could do that right now without a problem within a couple of minutes. But then I post that out there. Morgan Freeman should be able to receive some kind of royalties for that. And so right now, there's not a system that accurately detects that. It may eventually capture it, but you'll be able to get your ad out there before it's flagged and taken down. And there's not really a law, something in place that prevents somebody from doing that with maybe a federal guideline or something like that. So
Right.
I think that's coming down the pipeline where you'll be able to license Joe Rogan's face and Joe Rogan's likeness within your ad.
Okay, I need you to make something with Morgan Freeman right now before we get in
Yeah,
trouble,
right.
'cause I
I'll tell
really
you,
want him
'cause
on my website.
that's great. I'll tell
But
you.
no, but I do think this is really interesting, and it gets back to, again, to the fact of get some original photography, get some original video, some good quality video. Because I'm telling you what, people people are okay with crummy video, like crummy, not crummy, low quality video for reels and things like that. But on your website, when you're like trying to decide if you want to have those guys come and replace a $10,000 to $20,000 unit, like I want to be sure you're the right, that I want you coming over.
That's such a great point right there because if I'm people say all this time, like the value we were just talking earlier about the value of a video. When
Mm-hmm.
I look at that, I think to myself, if I'm going to spend $20,000 on a unit, I want to see a company that looks like it's worth $20,000. And then where it really hits for most contractors is when they look at it this way. Everybody steps in front of a home or business owner and says that we're the most professional company. To which I look at them and I go, well, here's your website. What would that tell me? What would your Facebook tell me about like you as a professional company right now? And then even if you want to get more granular on that, does your Facebook banner actually match what your LinkedIn banner looks like? Would I even know I was looking at the same company if I was researching them, their YouTube and on Facebook? And
Mm-hmm.
for most companies, they've never even looked at that type of content in that way. and they're losing customers because they have no consistent brand message across their platforms. And they don't even realize they're losing
Yep. You're right about that. You're
them.
right about that.
I mean,
I think it's a struggle too. It's a struggle because they don't understand how important that branding is. Because if you think about that whole customer journey, we have clients. Some of the things that they do is we obviously do Facebook ads, Facebook posts, which I consider branding. We make sure that their signs look like them, their wraps on their trucks look like them. We've done collateral pieces even for Pettit that they can take and leave in the house that look like them. And after they've done an install, we have postcards that can go out to the 20 neighbors who have also seen the trucks. So that branding all of a sudden becomes really important because it touches them in so many different places. So I want to look and see. I had a whole list of questions and we've totally gone rogue. Let me see if
okay,
there was anything else that I have not asked you about. Oh, this is a good question. I hope you have an answer for it.
me too.
What's the difference between content? We kind of talked about it in a roundabout way, but let's talk about it again. What's the difference between content that gets views and content that actually books jobs?
Well, I think that you have to, well, let's put it this way.
That's a hard one.
Yeah. So I look at it this way that I think contractors need to stop focusing on virality and millions of views because no one's buying your product in Norway. So what I look at is,
And that is a black hat trick that we get a lot of websites from people, and half their traffic is China. I'm like,
yeah,
ugh, no, that's not good traffic.
we call it 5 Mile famous. So what your content should do for you is make you 5 Mile famous
Yes.
and then work your way out from there. So if I have my business right here, nobody else within 5 miles should think about media, but anybody but me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if once I dominate my 5 mile radius around, let's say I was a contractor right here, then I go, okay, let me dominate my 10 mile radius and nobody touches my business within 10 miles right here. But everybody wants to make that video that gets millions of views. And there's companies that will promise that. But what is that actually going to do for you? And how many of those views are coming from potential customers that are home or business owners that you want to interact with? And so I think that I look at it from the content that you're creating should have a purpose, and identifying what that purpose is first will probably set you on the right track. But trying to hit a home run, it's like trying to get a couple. We had you don't know this, but I'll send it to you afterwards. In 2024, I had a top 10 reel in the world for Instagram.
Oh,
We had over 380 million views.
wow. Was that for a
My
client or for you, Patrick?
me.
Okay.
So get this. Here's your story for you. I think now combined we're at 500 million on all platforms.
Do you get
I
any
go
money
to
for
a
that when you hit those kind of numbers, or do you have to keep doing it over and over?
oh my gosh, Pam, I lost out on about so far. I don't know how many millions I've lost. This is God's honest truth. How many millions I've lost. So here's what happened. October of 2024, I'm with my, was it October? I'm with my fiance no, this is earlier. We weren't engaged yet. So it's earlier on in the year. I'm saying goodbye to her father at a family event. You're going to clip this. I know it. I'm saying goodbye to her father at a family event. She decides to screw around with us and yell daddy, to where I'm saying goodbye to her father. She yells daddy. We both turn around to her. Her father and me both turn around at the same time to her yelling out daddy. And she gets it on camera. And so I'm red as I can be in the face. He's like, come on, gives her a bird like that. And it's about a 12-second video. And I don't know how many years of time now it has on watch time on Instagram.
Wow.
We
And then
decided
people
to,
have reposted it with different songs and whatever too, right?
all time, the video for it, all the sound, you name it. And then Barstool Sports calls us the next morning. We went from like, we weren't even going to post it. And I was like, it's funny, whatever. Went from 1 to 10,000. By the next morning, it's at like 50,000 views. And I'm like, this is awesome. And then Barstool picked it up and put it on TikTok, and that blew it up on a bunch of different platforms. Um, Now, the mistake we made is the person who posted it I collabed with was her sister-in-law. She did not do a professional profile before posting it. We missed out on all money,
I
which is
hate that.
about, I don't know, we've estimated at least $1.5 million at this point.
Holy cow. Okay, now I
Um,
gotta go watch it, and I have to figure out how to make $1.5 million with that TikTok.
it's on my Instagram. You go back and look at it, go down the
Well,
Instagram. It's a daddy video. Um,
oh my god, okay, I'm writing that down, I'm writing that down.
but
Everybody here is probably gonna go look at it as soon as this is over.
yeah, it's something else, let me tell you. But I'll tell you what that video taught me more than anything is that people think they wanna go viral and they want to have millions of views. You better be ready for the BS that comes with that. Um, I went to no comments to thousands of negative comments about the way you look, sound. My fiance, what she looks like, sounds like. We all went through thousands upon thousands of people that want to say things about you. And when you have those notifications on, you're sitting there at work with somebody you've never met who's got to share their opinion about, I don't know, how you look or what they think about your life. Um, that can become a little overwhelming at times.
Yeah.
Um, and it wasn't just like one or two comments, it's thousands upon tens of
Wow,
thousands of
that's
comments that
crazy.
come in. It was very unique, almost like a snapshot of what I guess some people go through who are influencers that are out there.
Well, and I would say this about too. I have a person in this same industry that I'm in, and he was saying something about don't get caught up in the number of likes because it only takes. He was talking about he put something out, and he's like, I feel like sometimes I put stuff out, it's in the dead world of nothing, and nobody ever knows about it except for my mom and maybe my uncle. And he said, but one of my podcasts, a woman called me and she referenced that she had seen it. And he said it only took one, to get that big job. He said it didn't take hundreds of people seeing it. It just takes that one or that 10. So I think as far as booking a job, as long as you are talking to the right people, I think you'll book the job. I think you'll book the job. It just may take several times of them seeing you. I can't wait to see this
Can
viral video. That's all I can
my
think about.
last can I tell you something that's kind of a little off topic about that, Pam?
Yeah.
I had you're really true what you're saying. Like you never know who's watching the content that you create. I when I was doing my podcast heavily, we didn't get a whole lot of views, but I remember there was this one guy, Eustace Roofing, he was a sales rep. And I had done this podcast, a monologue about the best piece of advice that I ever received. And the best piece of advice was it's okay to stop a bad decision.
It's
Um,
okay to what?
Stop a bad decision.
Stop a bad decision.
And I did this thing about it because I really believe more men need to hear this because especially contractors, you name it, HVAC don't matter, that we get so caught up in doing something. We say, okay, I shouldn't be drinking, but I go out and I have a drink and now I'm going to have 10. You start doing drugs and then you start, well, screw it, I'm doing it. You start going down bad decisions. And I tell people in my company, wherever, at any point you can stop making a bad decision. Um, just because somebody's having an affair doesn't mean they have to continue doing it.
Right.
And I think that everyone, it helped me out a lot when I was dealing with drug and alcohol. That just because I made a bad decision, it doesn't mean I have to continue doing it through the night. And so I remember like this one podcast, this monologue got like 10 views. And I thought, okay, well, whatever. And then I was there at Eustace Roofing in Central Florida. The guy came up to me and he's like, man, he goes, I was about to walk into a place I shouldn't have been walking into. And he goes, I would just so happen to come across that. He goes, I stopped. And he goes, I'm so happy that I did. Thanks. And I was like, damn, you know what? That's really what it's supposed to be about. Um, Not millions of views, but how much you can have an impact on somebody and maybe positively have some kind of, yeah, impact on the world in
Well,
some
and you never know
cheesy
how
way.
God's gonna use that, and it sounds like he did.
Yeah, I
So,
think it's a
that's
beautiful
really
thing.
cool. It's really
And
cool.
so I think contractors, you never know what homeowner or business owner needs your service. And you might save their day just by going ahead and putting your service out there. they should do that. They owe it to that person. You owe it to the community.
I heard Mike talk about because sometimes, I tend to be the face of the business just because I'm the owner. And I said, sometimes they'll ask me to do stuff and I feel funny about sometimes being the person out front, And I said something to Mike. I said, "Do you ever feel funny about being the face and the person out front?" And he said, "I used to, but when I realized that the livelihoods of all of our people depend on me going out and doing those things," he said, "it changed me." And I said, "Yeah, I get that. I get that." So, yeah, and his name is on the business, so he needs to
Yeah,
be out front. And I think
absolutely. That's
that's
a
the
good
other
point.
piece is, and I'd like to get I know we're almost out of, I know we're probably we are almost out of time, but we got one more question. This is off the
Sure.
script question,
Okay.
but I've seen different things. I have different opinions on it. But if your end game is to sell your business, but your business is named after you, should you pull back or should you be the front man out there? What's your thoughts on that?
Hmm. Maybe I can answer this in the only way I know how to. I've seen a lot of private equity move in and
Mhm.
buy businesses that have the last name and don't have the last name. So I'm going to, forgive me, I'm going to skirt the question, but I hope answer in a unique way. Okay, Pam?
Okay.
I think that business owners should really look at what their life is going to look like when they leave the business. And if they got to drive past that building every single day with their name on it or without it and go, I'm okay just driving past this building and not knowing what's going on in there. Um, and I've seen so many business owners, and you probably have too. They leave, they got a few $1,000,000 and they go, now what? There's only
Mhm.
so many Mai Tais you can have on a beach. And
I
before
can
you
have a
kind of
lot,
go,
but
yeah,
okay. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, listen, I down Miami Vices, I could down them all. But eventually I got to go, I got to do something to have some
Right.
purpose. And I think that like these guys, everyone's private equity, EBITDA, what can I sell it for? Okay, man, cool. Then what? Watch your company get picked apart, watch costs go down, watch take an AI person to answer the phones instead of the person you had for 40 years who's been doing it for you. Like, what's the cost of selling that business to private equity?
Right.
Um,
There's more that
well,
it's more than just money.
it's
There's a
more than,
cost.
yeah,
There's
right.
it's the integrity piece sometimes, right?
And so I guess my roundabout way of answering it is I'm not sure what a business owner should do, but I think that what they should do, I know what they should do is think about their life after that business. Because yeah, you're complaining about the stress and the customer service, but damn, doesn't it feel good to know that you're in control of that and that your brand is in your own hands? And you have to be ready to step away from that when it comes time to sell that business.
Yeah. Wow, that's pretty powerful. That is a perspective I hadn't heard, and that is a really good one. It's
There
a
we go.
really good one,
Thank you.
Patrick. You're so
Thanks.
smart. All
Yeah, I
right.
love it.
Well, I think that we are. I hate it that we're done because I think I have like six more questions we could ask, but we'll have to do a round two later on.
I love it.
So anyway, but hey, thank you, Patrick, for joining us today on Explore HVAC and Home Services podcast. Um, really enjoyed hearing your advice. I mean, there were some really great things that you said on here that if you're fake on camera, it's going to be fake out there. That I loved your advice about the recruitment and identifying the guy that you want and putting that guy on there. I thought that was so great.
Thanks.
Um, I liked leaning into your point of difference and not using the words that everybody else uses, finding that point of difference. And I love that you take time to do that. I loved that you said, don't be scared of doing video because of the comments or the pride. And that probably the thing that I liked, okay, to stop a bad decision. But the thing that I really wrote down is that your brand is the instantaneous emotion that they feel when they see your brand, and that a brand, most importantly, is built over time. So I loved all of that. I love those insights. Um, to our listeners, thanks for coming and tuning in. Remember to subscribe so that you can see when the next one drops. For more insights, stories, and tips, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, we'll be there. But until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep exploring.